Hi. I've been trying to make this giant map of the Mario universe to try to make sense of all of its locations and characters and how they interact with one another. And one of the more surprisingly deep pockets here was the Donkey Kong family tree. I didn't want to go down an entire tangent exploring every twisted branch in that video, so I figured it would be worth making its own sort of addendum video to explore it here. So of course, there's Donkey Kong. But here's the thing. It's actually Cranky Kong. Yes, it's pretty common knowledge that the original Donkey Kong that kidnaps Pauline in a fit of rage and does battle with Mario on a construction site is actually Cranky Kong in his younger days. So, at some point, Donkey Cranky Kong Sr. meets Wrinkly Kong and gives birth, as we know, to Donkey Kong Jr. Now, we also know that they had another child, Pinkly Kong. It's a pink ape that we meet in Donkey Kong Jr. Math. Some people believe this to simply be a recolor of Donkey Kong Jr. and that it isn't actually its own separate character. But the pink fur and the fact that the two can exist on screen at the same time says to me that they are in fact different apes. And I would even go as far as to say that the faded pink J on the shirt would actually make sense if the shirt is a hand-me-down. Maybe Cranky and Wrinkly had to pinch their pennies at a certain point, and so all they had was hand-me-downs for Pinkly. And yeah, I just called her Pinkly because it sort of rhymes with Wrinkly. Donkey Kong Jr., we never really see him make it all the way to adulthood, mates with a female ape and gives us Donkey Kong 3, otherwise known as the friendly modern-day DK that we see in the Rare games, and a lot of times interacting with Mario in his later years. Now, this is where things start to get a little more complicated and speculative, but let's start with what we know for a fact. It has been stated explicitly that Diddy Kong is, in fact, Donkey Kong's nephew. So, this confirms a few things. Donkey Kong has an unknown amount of siblings, and at least one of his siblings is the parent of Diddy Kong. We're never given any information about who Diddy's parents actually are, so we'll be leaving those two unknown. What we do know, however, is that Funky Kong fits the bill to be a sibling of Donkey Kong. And while they never really state explicitly that they're brothers, it is confirmed that Funky is the grandson of Cranky, just like Donkey 3 is. So, going off of the relationship, the physical appearance, and the rhyming names, I'm going to slot Funky in as the older brother of Donkey 3, but not Diddy's father. Because we see Diddy and Funky interact, and there's never any reference to Diddy being Funky's son. There's at least 3 siblings that are the child of Donkey Kong Jr. and his wife, being Donkey 3, Funky, and at least one more, the parent of Diddy. Now, we also know Donkey Kong 3 is dating Candy Kong, who is the older sister of Diddy Kong's girlfriend, Dixie Kong, and they have an even younger sister, Tiny Kong. These 3 sister Kongs come from a different branch entirely. We also don't know who their parents are, but we do know that they have cousins, Chunky Kong and his younger brother, Kiddy Kong, also unknown parents here. So there's a lot going on. There's a Kong that only appears in the Japanese guidebook for Donkey Kong Country 2, called Uncle Kong. He gives Dixie and Diddy tips throughout the guide. The fact that his name is Uncle Kong would lead me to believe that he doesn't actually have any kids of his own, if he's fine with everybody calling him Uncle. So I didn't slot him in as any of our known Kong's parents. Whatever familial link is bonding Chunky, Kitty, Candy, Dixie, and Tiny as cousins, Uncle Kong is a sibling within that mix of siblings. So he is the middle glue tying all of these cousins together. Now, Swanky Kong is notable because he appears relatively similar to Donkey Kong 3 and Funky Kong in terms of his physical appearance. He is mostly found around the island running all sorts of gambling minigames, but the thing with Swanky is he addresses all of the characters in a pretty dry and unfamiliar, formal tone. So we never really get any clues as to who he's related to and how. I definitely think there's a few possibilities for Swanky. At first, his blue attire was making me think about him possibly being the father of Chunky and Kitty. And Uncle Kong also sort of looks like a con man or a swindler in some sense, which would fit well as the brother of Swanky, a gambler. And the fact that Swanky is always running around, dealing in seedy business, running scams, chasing the bag, would explain why Kitty seems to be a pretty neglected child. He just gets dumped off on Dixie and Funky in Donkey Kong Country 3. So Swanky would fit as sort of a deadbeat dad to Chunky and Kitty. But it's also just as possible that Swanky would be absentee dad to Diddy, or maybe the absentee dad to Dixie, Candy, and Tiny. Definitely, I think he comes from this same generation of Donkey 3, Funky, Diddy's parents, Uncle Kong, etc. We don't have enough context clues to really slot him in confidently anywhere. There's this fedora-wearing Kong that also looks very similar to Donkey Kong 3, Funky Kong, etc., but he's only ever appeared in Nintendo Power. He's not even given a name, and he's become a giant meme. Now, who exactly is he? It's sort of a similar situation to Swanky. We just don't have enough info, but I definitely think he's also the absentee parent of one of our orphaned Kong children here. I sort of like Fedora Kong as the oldest brother of Donkey Kong 3 and the father of Diddy. The fact that he's just so shrouded in mystery would make that pretty appropriate. But the fedora and how mysterious he is would make for a great fit alongside Swanky's seedy gambling and Uncle Kong's seasoned street smarts. So really, Swanky and Fedora Kong, unknown, but definitely a part of this line of characters right here. Now, to learn more, we have to go even farther back. Cranky Kong, or Donkey Kong Sr., does mention his great-grandfather who had a magical mirror in one bit of dialogue, but nothing else about him is known. Not even a name or any sort of physical description. But in Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, we meet Brink Kong, which seems to imply the existence of a common Kong ancestor long ago in prehistory. And we also do meet various other enemy factions that seem to be offshoot mutations, different evolutionary branches on the Kong family tree, such as the Ba-Booms, the bomb-obsessed monkeys from Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, or the helper monkeys, little spider monkeys that help you out during Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Now, at this point in the timeline over here, these creatures start to become very odd, lanky, corrupted with darkness, strange in appearance, just cursed in various different ways. And my speculation is that K. Rool and the Kremlings have actually caused some foul mutations to occur with their building of the Chaos Core and all of these sort of radioactive elements that are being introduced. And that's where we sort of get the Ghastly Kongs from Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, the Minkies, who are these weird monkeys that climb trees and attack you in the Donkey Kong Country games, and then Manky Kongs. Now the thing about the Manky Kongs, they're also a faction of enemies that are like outcasted orangutans that attack you in the Donkey Kong Country games. But there are some pieces of material that seemingly refer to Manky Kong as a singular character who has been outcasted from the Kong family. Manky, to me, is presumably the father of Lanky, or maybe the grandfather of Lanky even, but we don't know anything about who he would have mated with. And we also know about one more scrapped Kong called Redneck Kong, who also sort of wears similar attire to Lanky as far as the button-up and the more redneck-esque appearance. So I'm going to slot Redneck Kong in unofficially as Lanky Kong's brother as well, son or grandson of Manky. And Cranky once refers to Lanky as someone from a twisted branch of the family tree or something like that. So definitely the orangutans and the more gorilla-esque Kongs had some fallout at some point. Now, that's pretty much everything we know. And as you can see, there are still some major areas of mystery left on this tree. Specifically, something that I find troubling is how little we really know about how we get from Cranky Kong to Donkey Kong Jr. to DK Donkey Kong 3. The identity of Donkey Kong III's mother being totally unknown, and the general lack of information in general about Donkey Kong Jr.'s whereabouts and life. This on its own could be chalked up to a simple lack of information being given to us, but there's one more thing that becomes very odd when you start to observe this family and how it interacts with the Mario universe in particular. Now, there will be more about that in the full Mario universe video, but the important detail pertaining to the Kong family in particular is the fact that we see Cranky Kong in his younger years interacting with an adult Mario. And later, we see a friendly Donkey Kong, presumably Donkey Kong the Third, playing sports, go-karting, and partying with the Mario cast, still around the same age. The original Donkey Kong ages and becomes Cranky Kong. So why hasn't the Mario cast aged at all? There's two possible explanations here. Either the humans of the Mushroom Kingdom age at an incredibly slow rate compared to the Kongs, enough so that multiple generations of Kongs would pass in one lifetime of a human. Or there's something darker happening. And there's actually a clue in an unexpected place. Again, we'll get way deeper into this in the Mario video, but we know that Donkey Kong himself has at one point been exposed to the time-traveling and time-manipulating of Bowser through baby Donkey Kong's presence in Yoshi's Island DS. So, Bowser has kidnapped a baby Donkey Kong out of some point in time. This, in conjunction with the strangeness surrounding the lineage of the main three Donkey Kong characters, raises an interesting possibility. Someone got moved around in time. Maybe this explains how Donkey Kong the Third could be a fully grown adult at the same time as the adult Mario cast, who should be elderly like Cranky Kong by now. In my opinion, this calls the identity of all three of the main Donkey Kongs into question. Is Donkey Kong the Third actually just an alternate timeline version of Cranky Kong, plucked out of his place in time and unnaturally stuffed into the future? Does this mean that Donkey Kong Jr. died without ever finding love, and that the unknown mother of Donkey Kong Jr. the Third would in fact be Cranky Kong's mother, because they're actually the same person? Or, in fact, maybe there's a different explanation. Cranky, or the original Donkey Kong, was sent back to the past at some point, and that's why now, in the present timeline, he's old. But I don't know. Something just doesn't sit right with me. It just doesn't make any sense. But let me not get too off track here. That's pretty much everything we officially know about the Donkey Kong family tree, but there are some loose ends to tie up before we call it a wrap. Firstly, there are some other Kongs, like Bluster Kong, who appear only in the animated series of Donkey Kong Country, but I decided not to include them as I don't feel that the animated show is canon, as it would overcomplicate things severely to take it into account. And even if we did include Bluster specifically, he would be just like Swanky and Fedora Kong in that we can't really say for sure who he's related to or what he has to do with anything. His rivalrous nature with the entirety of the Kong family would suggest that maybe he's just from an unrelated family entirely. Who's to say? But yeah, the gaps, parental abandonments, and traumas found beneath the bark of this wretched tree are just too much for one mind to handle. Thinking about a baby Donkey Kong being ripped from his home by the clutches of the Koopa army, transplanted across time, warping reality and twisting the entire family tree into a nonsensical mess that can't even be comprehended. It's just too evil to think about. I've been driving myself insane thinking about this, but this is only the slightest piece of the puzzle, because the Kongs are simply one cog in the wheel of the Mario universe. I'll catch you next time.